Welcome to the Labyrinth. My guest today is Frank Steven. He has a very popular YouTube channel called A Nigerian Perspective with Frank Steven. He talks about geopolitics, wokeism, Islam, Christianity, Israel, to pretty much anything. His YouTube shorts are informative and hilarious at the same time. So do check out his channel. Link is in the description. Also, if you find this podcast useful, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. All right, Frank. Welcome to the Labyrinth. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. How are you? How is
I'm
India?
doing, yeah, India is pretty good, man. India is pretty good. This is the first time I'm getting someone from the African continent for the first time
Wow.
to
Okay.
get a yeah, to
This
get a
is going to be
Nigerian
interesting.
perspective.
Yeah. Let me give a caveat for people who always will accuse me and be like, he doesn't represent all of us. I am not here to speak on behalf of every Nigerian or even most Nigerians. Okay. My channel is called A Nigerian Perspective. Emphasis on the A. Okay, the article there, not the Nigerian perspective. I like to make that clarification so that people who are like, he doesn't represent all of us. Yeah, I don't represent all. I don't claim to represent every Nigerian. So yeah.
Okay, so a little bit more about you. So, who are you, man, and what do you do for a living?
Oh, my name is Frank Steven Ihuoma. I'm giving my full name. I was born and I've born, raised, and I've lived all my life in Nigeria. I was born in the popular city of Lagos. Lagos is a popular city in not just Nigeria but Africa as a whole. I was born in Lagos, in the heart of Lagos, a very busy part of Lagos, and I studied up to university level. When I went to the university was when I left Lagos for the permanently for the first time. And since then, I've not returned because I realized that there are better places to live in Nigeria than Lagos. And I know Lagosians do not like me saying that, but they need to hear someone say it to them over and over again. There are many better places to live in Nigeria than Lagos. So yeah, I what I do for a living is I primarily make YouTube videos. Of course, there are other things I do on the side, but I primarily make YouTube videos talking about politics, culture, religion, and or whatnot.
Yeah. Your videos are very interesting and very informative. You talk about wokeism and the rise of jihad in Europe, Israel-Palestine war, and so on. So,
Yeah.
how do you do the research for so many wide topics?
Essentially it just depends on what is uh I think the best way to do it is you have a topic you are interested in, and you decide you want to make a video about these topics, and then you ask yourself, how do I introduce the topic? There are many ways to introduce it. For me, you either just go, I'm making a video and I'm introducing this topic, or you use reactions as a way to introduce the topic. So you've already read about it, you're interested in it, you want to talk about it, then you go out there and say, okay, what are other people saying about it, or what are the misconceptions out there? And then you find a video that is a classic example of the error you intend to correct, and then you react to that video. That's kind of how my process is like. Like when
Okay,
I
yeah,
started talking
that's a very
about, like when I started my channel, was basically just reacting to the woke crowd, the anti-racist, you know. And I had read a couple of stuff from a couple of like I've read Thomas Sowell. I've tried to familiarize myself with the whole conversation about racism, and one of the problem I had with it is how there are many Nigerians who move to, let's say, Europe or the United States, but not just United, not necessarily the United States. I know a couple of Nigerians who have moved from Nigeria to the UK or Nigeria to Canada. These are the popular destinations for Nigerians who are moving abroad, Nigeria to the UK or to Canada. So these are people who, prior to them leaving, they spoke like normal human beings. Like the conversation was easy to follow. And then they leave and then they start saying things you don't understand. And you're like, what are you talking about? And it's one of the things I tell them, that the way you are talking, they taught you how to think like that. You never thought like this. You never saw certain things as racist, and then you went over there. Now it is racist. Where is all of this coming from? There's this lady from the UK. Not just her, there are a couple others. They are Nigerians. From their name, I could tell that they are Nigerians. I could tell their tribe from Nigeria because that's one thing about a Nigerian name. From the name, you could tell who they are, the tribe they are from. And I know this. I know these people are from this part of the country. And then they say certain things, let's say about racism, and I'm like, this very thing you just said can be applied to your tribe. Your tribe in Nigeria, this very thing you just said can perfectly be applied to them, and it will not be seen as racism. When did this become? When who taught you that this is racism? You didn't get this idea from Nigeria. You never got it. You went there and they told you that this is a problem. So when you see some of these things, or when I see some of these things and I find it concerning, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a video about this, and I'm going to try to bring a classical, show some classical example of, and of course, racism exists. For example, let's like one of the things I talk about racism. It exists, right? But there are where it is blown out of proportion, or even the solution that is being recommended is only going to end up creating more racism and does not even make sense. So when I identify these issues, I try to read about them and then I go out to respond to them with classic examples of people who spout misconceptions.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's very interesting because when you often listen to these Western woke people, they
Mm.
often talk as if white people are the only racists. As an Indian, I can tell you some of the most racist people are Indians. I know that because I live here.
This is the thing about racism that I don't really understand. I've spoken with like people who talk about it a lot, and I say as a Nigerian, racism is something that I don't understand. What I mean by understand is I don't understand why you guys react to it the way you react to it. Like I don't understand it. Like of course I understand racism that result into violence. That is bad. I understand that one. But oral racism, like what I mean by oral racism is that people are just talking. People are just saying stuff that of course you're not okay with what is being said. Like it's not like you are fine with it, but you are used to it. As a Nigerian, I'm used to people saying something about my tribe that should be offensive. But I mean, I grew up in Lagos. Lagos is like a conglomeration of all the tribes in Nigeria, and I'm yet to see a tribe in Lagos that don't have like a stereotype or an insult that is associated with that tribe. I'm yet to see one. It's common in Lagos. Like there's what we call in Lagos, like people like me will be called Omoibo. Now, Omoibo is just is Yoruba way of saying an Igbo person, but it has a racist connotation, like a tribalistic connotation. It's not just an Igbo person. The way it is being used and how it is being said has like a tribalistic connotation. But I'm fine with it. People call me Omoibo all the time. I don't. And Yoruba people will call me Omoibo. There's this one they also called us when I stayed in Lagos. Ebaibo. That one is. They are associating us with the food we eat. So we eat what they call eba. So they associate eba with Igbo. So eba Igbo. That's what they called me, my brothers, because we stayed in a compound that was just predominantly Yorubas. We are the only Igbos in the compound, and they had so many tribalistic slurs for us. We grew accustomed to it, like, fine. The only place I think you cross the line is when it goes from words and then you are now hitting people, you are attacking them, you are inflicting or you are inciting violence against them. Then I'm concerned. But if we are just, there's one thing we say in Nigeria, it's just banter. We are just talking, okay? If as long as we are just talking, it's fine, you know. And even we as Igbos, we have something we say about Yorubas. We call them Indio Fame Manu. That means people who cook with too much oil. you know and and also we have statements like that for other tribes, and I really don't understand when something is just being said and people are like, that is unacceptable, like you shouldn't say that, as it's unacceptable, people should know. I'm like, I don't know. As a Nigerian, I don't relate. I don't understand it. I feel every tribe say whatever. In fact, my brother, one of my brothers, he married somebody from a different tribe in Nigeria. And when he talks about the tribe, his wife's tribe, you would think, if you're a Westerner, you would think he hates them. You will call him a race. If you see him talk about the tribe of his wife, you think he hates them. But as a Nigerian, I just know that is how Nigerians talk about other tribes. There is nothing to it. It's just talk. Okay, it's just banter, like we say. It's just talk. So
Okay. Uh, do you think maybe in the West, because they don't have real problems? Now, I'm not saying that the West doesn't have any problems, but
mm,
compared to second world, third world countries, They don't have, they're more comfortable, and they don't have wars or like mass poverty, so they're
Mm.
finding reasons to be offended and triggered by.
I I agree with you. I agree with you. Like, imagine living in a third world country and you are offended by what someone said. You have to be very, very unserious. You have to be very unserious. Even nobody will take you serious. You are offended because of something someone said. They didn't do anything to you. They just spoke words and you are offended. People, nobody is going to take you seriously. Like, you have many problems. You have many things to be worried about. There is insecurity. There is poverty. There is, I mean, people in the West talk about climate change, but there are parts of Africa that really feel the impact. Like, there are places that are experiencing serious droughts, on unprecedented droughts, right? There are places that are getting unprecedented floodings in Africa. That's the funny thing about Africa. We have water and we don't have water at the same time. So there is too much water in Africa and there's still no water in Africa. It's just the interesting thing about the continent. So you have places that the climate is changing and unprecedented amount of like natural disasters are happening there, and people have to fend for themselves. They have to survive, and they have governments that don't care, making society and the economy unbearable for many people. So when you find yourself in that kind of situation, you really care about so many of the things that people in the first world are trying to wrestle with. The truth is, the way people talk about racism, especially vocal racism, I like to categorize it as that: vocal or oral racism. You have to be somebody in the West to find that as a problem. You have to be. Or you have to live in a place where what you are the only thing you are consumed with is first world problems.
So you touched upon climate change and about floods. Do you think
Mm.
do you think people like Greta Thunberg can help solve these problems, or do you think she's just yelling and screaming?
I've never taken that girl seriously. She's a lady now, right? She's above 18, so let us call her lady. I've never taken that lady seriously ever, even when she was a girl. Never. I do not agree that the solution. This is the problem with I say racism, with climate change. We can all agree on the problem, the extent of which, yeah, is can be debatable. But the solution is where I find disagreement. I believe we are going to the way out of climate change is innovation, not cutting back on consumption of fossil fuel or stuff, or reducing people's energy consumption and use of energy. Let us reduce it. Let us reduce our carbon footprint, whatever it is. I think the best way to reduce carbon footprint is to find an alternative to emitting
Yeah.
carbon. That is the best way. And if Greta could spend more time in the school that she left to go and protest, if she's really concerned about it, she spend more time in school thinking, okay, how do we innovate? What other forms of energy can we consider? How can we scale? Okay, we have renewable energy. How can we scale it? How can we make it really dependable? Because it's not really the renewables are not really dependable like that. I use renewable in my own, house, and I can tell you how undependable it is.
Mm.
So how do we scale this thing up? How do we innovate? Instead of, what, let us not turn on the lights every once. Come on, just how human beings are. We don't know how to prevent. We know how to cure. You know,
Yes.
that is just how human beings are. You know.
Yeah. Well, that
So I
that
don't.
makes a lot of.
I mean, there was a time she came to Africa to do one of her climate tours or whatever it is it was, and she took pictures with a couple of Africans, and I think there were some Africans and then some Europeans that she took pictures with, and then the one she posted on her social media, she kind of cropped out the black people that were in the picture. It was very interesting, and people were like, "Is this racism?" Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know. You figure it out. So
Yeah, yeah. So, since you're a Nigerian, I want to know more about your country. Is it a peaceful country? Is it a developing country? What are your thoughts on your own country?
Nigeria is a great country. It's a great country, a country filled with potentials. Peaceful, relatively, depends on where you are staying. There are parts of the country that are experiencing serious violence, like places in the north. We're talking Borno, we are talking Kaduna, like I think during the festive period in December, I think it's still the case, but not as much as it was during December. We had like serious case of insecurity where people could not travel by road to certain locations because you are likely going to get kidnapped. I mean, people, buses were being kidnapped. Before they used to kidnap just, let's say they stop the bus, they take like 5 persons, But then it went from just taking like 5 persons to kidnapping everybody in the bus. Sometimes it's like they stop the entire road and take like 4 buses. It became really it was like a competition who can out kidnap the other at one point during the festive period. And we still have that issue. It's just that now we don't have much people on the road. And during festive period is where you have people who can pay ransom traveling, So so that's why insecurity increased during festive period. But generally, the country is not that secured. Okay, but there are areas that you can find relative peace. And it's a multi-ethnic society. We have over 250 tribes, or some will say over 300 tribes and ethnic groups, over 300 languages. Okay, so this is a country with many, many, many ethnicities. We are people of different languages, and uh, religion. We have two major religion: is Christianity, Islam, and then there's people who practice traditional religion, but they are not many. Oddly enough, you find people who do both, like who like practice traditional religion and also are either Christians or Muslims. So you find some people who are like combining so many things. But if you ask them, if you give them a form and ask them what religion do you practice, they say Christianity or they say Islam. So Nigeria is really nuanced. It's a nuanced society. Economically, uh, people private individuals are trying, like we try to create uh we try to create businesses, small businesses, medium scale business, even some, like we have the second richest man on the continent of Africa is a Nigerian, Aliko Dangote. We also have Mike Adenuga. We also have Femi, no, Otedola. Yeah, Femi Otedola. So we have like 3 billionaires in dollars from Nigeria. So the country we try, but and we are the uh, as per GDP, Nigeria is the richest country in Africa. But when you compare it with GDP per capita, then you get a different story because the revenue that is generated does not or the GDP does not translate into a better quality of life for the average Nigerian. Why Nigeria is like the richest country in Africa, it is the second poorest, or not second poorest, is the country with the second largest number of poor people on the planet. Over 92, is it 92 now? Over 72 million people in Nigeria are living in abject poverty. So, and when we say poverty, is we mean people who cannot live, who don't live above $1 a day. So that's the kind of poverty we are talking about. It's really, severe, multidimensional poverty. So that is Nigeria.
So, what about the future of Nigeria? Are you more optimistic or more pessimistic?
Hmm. I am hopeful. I am hopeful. Okay. Uh, why am I hopeful? It's because of God. I put the I put the future of Nigeria in God's hands. But if it's based on what I'm seeing, there's no hope. We have one of the clueless administration. Like the previous one was clueless, but the current one is like, you thought the previous one was clueless. Well, check us out. I mean, very clueless. At the beginning of the year, the exchange rate for like exchange rate between naira, the Nigerian currency, and the US dollar was like getting close to 200, 200. It wasn't there, but I think 180, one, I say 100, 1,800 naira. It was $1 was 1,800 naira, right? This was a huge, like a 200% increase, right? Or so from 700 naira to equals $1 to 1,800, equaling in less than 6 months. That was like a huge spike. People thought the trend was going to continue and we are going to get to, like, by this time it will be 300, 3,000. Like $1 will be 3,000 naira. But the government tried to just manipulate the market because nothing changed. Like, even though the dollar started falling, like the exchange rate came down a little bit. At this point it's 1,600, right? But the price of goods in the country kept going up. Like, they were just going up. Inflation was like more than 200%. It's still going up even as I'm speaking to you right now. Like, if you buy a particular commodity, say you buy a pen or you buy this thing, if you go next week, the price will increase. If you go the week after that, the price will increase. That's how prices are increasing in Nigeria. It's like on a weekly basis. It's really that bad. And the current administration have no clue what they are doing. They have no clue. One minute they're like, we are going to do this. This is going to, be the solution, and that will not be the solution. They come with another one, and that will not. And why they are trying to they claim to want to fix the economy, they are still increasing government spending. They increase they increase the salary of the judiciary, they increase the salary of whoever it is that they increase. The president is buying a presidential jet, presidential yacht. I'm like, I'm not sure you are really trying to reduce spending. You're trying to increase it, and also the president's members of his family are like he's selling government assets, and people who are buying it are like members of his family. So it's like there is no intention to fix anything. It's just they want to manage the economy in such a way that there will be no like opera. The public will not react negatively, and then there will be insecurity that will make it impossible for them to govern the country. They want to keep the country as peaceful as possible, like keep the public as peaceful as possible, try to control price and stuff to make sure that Nigerians don't get to the point where they can no longer bear the hardship that they are currently already suffering. And I don't think the government should worry about that. This is one thing about Nigeria. And I'm like, the government should not worry about trying to placate the public. Like, Nigerians don't get upset that easily. Like, no matter how bad the economy is, you're not going to find Nigerians like, we are protesting. Maybe they protest for like 2 weeks and they are done. The protest doesn't lead to anything productive. It always doesn't lead to anything productive. So, I mean, since January, they were debating and amongst themselves. I mean, the government and like the labor union in this country, to increase minimum wage. They're like, do we increase minimum wage? Do we not increase minimum wage? What should minimum? They were debating and debating and debating, and finally, it's still not complete. It's still like the government is reluctant. They're doing it gradually, gradually, gradually. What the labor union is requesting is not what the government is doing. And of course, why they are being gradual about it is because they really don't want to give the labor union what they're asking for, but they want the people to make it to make it to they want to create this image in the eyes of the public that they are trying to do something. But of course, they're not doing anything. Even the current increase, like I think they increased it from 50,000 naira to 77 or 80 or whatever it is now. What is that going to do for the average Nigerian, where you are experiencing 200% inflation and you are increasing minimum wage by what, 60, 70%? What is that going to do for the average Nigerian? Meanwhile, you increase the salary of judges and senators to correspond with the inflation. Like, it's like we increase the salaries of these public officers to correspond, high public officers, by the way, not just low ranking public officers. We increase their salaries to correspond with the inflation rate, but we don't do that with people who are at the bottom. It's really interesting, you know. And I hope the country gets better. I can only be hopeful. But my hope is in God. It's not based on what they are doing. It's not based on what the government is doing.
Okay. So you said that you have faith in God. Are you like a religious, spiritual person?
Yeah, yeah. I'm a Christian. I'm religious. I really believe that. I really believe in God. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming you're also a conservative person. Uh,
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So when it comes to the West, when you see the whole LGBTQ movement,
Mm,
and when you see it mixing with the wokeism movement, and you must have seen the Paris Olympics opening and increasing emphasis on that. They're showing more and more of that on media.
mm,
What do
mm.
you think about this?
Uh, Interesting. I have a lot of things. There are many aspects of it that, and the question is, how do I react to all the aspects? Of course, every well-meaning individual will not want to marginalize people with different sexual orientation or mental illness. The goal is not to marginalize any of them, okay? And I'm not saying that gay people are mentally ill. I'm talking, when I said mental illness, I'm referring to those who believe that they are another gender. Those are the ones I'm describing as mentally ill. And the goal is not to discriminate against these people. Nobody wants to inflict harm on anyone who has problems or who does not conform to certain norms or certain societal norms. That is not the goal. The problem any sensible person have is the fact that it is no longer, it's supposed to be, well, right to private and family life, right? The freedom to practice to be whoever you want to be sexually or gender wise is the right to private and family life. That's what it is. But it's no longer private and family. It's now public and anti-family. In fact, it's like, what are we protecting here? Are we protecting the right to private life because you're not doing it in public? And of course, people are going to be like, the not the the response I will get when I say something like that, or you get when you say something like that, is that heterosexual relationship is everywhere, is all over the place. But that's not true. It's not true that people who are straight are portraying their straightness everywhere. No, like as somebody who live in Nigeria, straight people don't express their relationship everywhere. It's not like, hey, yeah, we are straight and we are putting it in your face. No, we keep most of straight relationship private. We keep it private. The problem is that it has gone from gay people having the right to be themselves and to have relationships to gay people wanting to be visible. It went from leave us alone to we want you to see us, look at us, we are here. So that is kind of like the problem when it comes to the LGBTQIA plus community as I see it in the West. Oddly enough, if we are talking about LGBTQIA plus issues in Africa, I think the reverse is kind of what is the reverse position is kind of what I will hold. My position will be gay people in Africa need to not be discriminated against. Like, there are laws in Africa that are really oppressive and unnecessary, right? Like in Nigeria, if you are caught in homosexual relationship, you get 14 years in prison. If you're a gay couple and you get married, you get 14 years in prison. If you officiate a gay wedding, you get 14 years in prison. If you attend a gay wedding, you get 14 years in prison. Like, all these are not necessary. Like, they're not necessary. You know, you don't imprison people for their sexual orientation or even for choosing to get married. What I would say in Nigeria and in Africa is all that is needed when it comes to do with the LGBTQIA plus community and issues that surround that alphabet or those alphabets. The best ways, because I know Africans are like, we want to maintain our way of life, and I understand that. The best way to deal with that is just make a law. You already have it in your law. Your law does not recognize gay marriage. It doesn't recognize it. In the Marriage Act of Nigeria, which has been codified in various states, all the states in Nigeria for the most part, the definition of marriage is a union between a man and a woman. By that definition, Gay marriage does not exist. So you don't need an extra law. You just have to just leave it at the definition of marriage. Any person can go ahead and get married or do whatever, but it is not going to be legally recognized. Keep it at that, and you are preserving your way of life. That is all you need to do, But in reaction to what African leaders and the African people see in the West, in reaction to that, because they are afraid, of course, the fear is partly due to the fact that they don't understand. You know, you can have issues with homosexuality or with being gay or whatever it is because you understand it, and you can have issues with it because you don't understand it. And I think in Africa, the issues that they have with LGBTQ is because they don't understand it, you know. So that is why people always make it look like every misunderstanding or no, not every misunderstanding or every issue you have with those people in that community is born out of misconception or misunderstanding. I'm like, no, it's not always the case. Yes, I in Africa you see people who just don't know. They feel once one person is gay, everybody's going to. I'm like, it doesn't happen like that. Of course, I understand the social will I call it contagion. I don't know if there's a the best word to use to describe it, where people, if it becomes a trend like it is in the West, if it becomes cool, like everybody like, oh, it's cool. It's no longer cool to be straight. It's now cool to be extra. If it becomes a trend, people will want to hop on that trend. I understand that. But criminalizing it does not, it's just the extreme opposite. Yes, LGBTQIA plus stuff should not become a trend, but it should not also be criminalized. So it's to find the balance in between. And I think the balance is don't criminalize it, just don't legally recognize it. That is all.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with you because on in the West, like you said, it was all about tolerating them and not discriminating against homosexuals or bisexuals or whatever. Uh,
Mm,
if it was just about that, I would be completely okay with that. But then they went to the extreme of including men in women's sports, saying that
mm.
anyone can be anything. Drag queens going to kindergarten in the West, and
Then they gave
uh,
them an entire month, Pride
yeah,
Month.
exactly.
And then
It's
they
it's
started teaching children that sexuality. Now this book is gay is now introduced in schools. Sexual orientation is now being taught to children. You people now parade themselves in the streets as gay. Pride flags are now flying everywhere. Inclusivity all over the place. In fact, policies are now drafted around inclusivity. Now it even got into Hollywood where you have unnecessary gay characters in movies that you feel there's no need to put this person there. Why? In fact, there are some movies that the person it will be more interesting if the person is straight, but because they just wanted, to be inclusive, the character is now gay and stuff. Those things are not necessary. You're going too far with it, and of course, there's now the virtue signaling that goes with it, where some of the people who even do some of the things, wave pride flags and all whatnot, they really are not standing for gay people. I mean, like Mercedes Benz and IBM and other companies, where during Pride Month they changed their logo, but not in the Middle East. In the Middle East, the logo remains the same. You know, Disney is going to make a movie about a gay character, but when they release it in the Middle East, the gayness is going to be excluded. Wakanda Forever or Black Panther. Uh, the movie when it was released in China, the poster for the movie had the face of Boseman covered. While in America and other parts of the world, his face was visible, but in China, his black face was covered, and they want us to believe that they are really fighting, racism. I'm like, oh please, everybody know what this is about. You don't care. You are cashing in on social trends, and you're virtue signaling so that you get a pat on the back for being progressive when you actually are not. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So in another month or so, we'll be having the U.S. elections.
Mm.
So who would you like to be seen? Who would you like to win? Trump or Kamala?
I don't want Kamala Harris to win.
Yeah, agreed. All she does is laugh.
Not just the laughter, is that it's just going to be a continuation of Joe Biden, you know. Of course, there are people who say things like Kamala Harris is the most liberal or leftist candidate, which is true. But there's so many reasons I don't want Kamala Harris to win. Many reasons. One, of course, is that it's going to be a continuation of Joe Biden. That is one. Two is because there's one thing about Democrats. When they win an election, when they are rewarded with victory for an election, when they have done literally nothing or have done things that they should not have done, right? It encourages them. You know? It tells them, yeah, we should continue doing what we are doing. Is a winning strategy. So if they lose, maybe they will sit back and be like, maybe this is not a winning strategy. Maybe we need to dial down the wokeness. Maybe we need to dial down the leftism. Maybe we need to realize that the public is not really in favor of some of the things we want to push. So I think the party, if they lose, it will be a good thing for the party. you know and I want to appeal to Democrats who are like, we don't like what we are seeing in our party. We don't like the fact that, I'm like, if you want that to change, then advocate for Kamala Harris losing, because the only thing that politicians respond to is what wins elections, right? That is the only thing they react to. So that's why I don't want Kamala. Also, she's not qualified, and yeah, it is not an achievement to because that's what, if she wins, that's how people are going to see it, like, oh, finally we have the first black female president. Like, it's not an achievement. It's just, it will be better if it happens organically than that you force it. When you force it, is just, I mean, the whole country should not virtue signal. Okay, it doesn't help anybody. Don't do this. I don't know who you are virtue signaling to, because it's not like the rest of the world is going to be like, oh, Africa has had a female president. We have a female president in Liberia. It wasn't a huge deal. It just happened. In fact, when you compare her with her opponent, she was more qualified. In fact, when she won, it was like, people were like, thank God she won. You know, she was more qualified than the person she was running against. We've had female presidents in Africa. So it shouldn't be like, oh, it's such a grand out of place, doesn't happen. You are the first to do it. Just calm down, okay? Let it happen, because it is based on, qualifications and fair. Uh, Based on, this person is someone who is going to represent me, not just because this is somebody who is a woman. That's not the best way to get a female president. And if she's more qualified than her opponent, it's also going to make your claim of she's a female president stronger, because then we are going to be like, oh, she's more qualified. But if it's because you are doing it purely out of, let us get a black female president, and then you end up getting like the worst of the worst, because that's what Kamala Harris is. There are many black women that will make better presidential candidates than Kamala Harris. She's really the worst of the worst. You are only going to help the racist in your country, so to speak. You're going to give them ammunition. Okay? If she loses, you might think, as somebody who is liberal, who is new or neck deep into identity politics, you might think America will become less racist or less sexist if we have Kamala Harris as our president, if she wins. But I will guarantee you that no, you're only going to end up giving ammunition to people who you consider racist. In fact, some people who were not racist are going to become racist when Kamala Harris wins, because she's going to give them reason to think that females and women should not become president. I mean, women and black people should not become president. She's going to give them reasons. Okay? So, at the end of the day, it's not a good thing. She should not. And of course, people are going to be like, but Trump is, they have their issues with Trump. And I'm like, look, Trump has his problems. I'm not saying he's perfect, but compared to Kamala Harris, I'll take Trump any day.
Yeah, I think it's not about the color of the person. It's about the policies, and
Mhm.
it's about the people they surround themselves with. I don't know who Kamala Harris is surrounding herself with, but when I see Trump surrounding himself with people like Vivek Ramaswamy or RFK Jr. or some
Mm.
sensible people, and when I see him talking about some policies that I agree with, I don't agree with everything on Trump, But
Mm-hmm.
when I at least is talking to people, at least is
Mm,
giving difficult interviews. Kamala
mm.
is not giving difficult interviews at all. That makes me
Yeah,
feel.
and there's another funny thing about her campaign is like we are going to fix the economy. We are going to make, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but you've been there for 3 years.
Yeah.
You've been there for 3 years. You're not, this is not 2020. This is not, or it's not 2020. This is 2024. Okay. This is not, you're not, you've had your chance and you blew it. You blew it. We are going to exempt tax on tips. You've had opportunity to do this for 3 years. You did not do it. It was until Trump said he's going to give tax exemption for tips that you're like, yeah, we're going to do that too. Like, really? Or you are the better candidate. Come on, you know. And then the position on Israel Palestine is just, it's just not what it's supposed to be. You are just encouraging terrorists. That's it. That's your rhetoric is just encouraging terrorists. We know, you know, I know, the whole world knows you are not going to abandon Israel. That is fact. You're going to still support them. But the way you talk about it, your posturing, right? Your political posturing gives a empowers these terrorists, makes them feel like, yeah, we should go ahead. And you don't want to do that. You know, 1 minute is like we condemn terrorism. The next minute we are requesting a two-state solution. 1 minute you condemn the terrorists. Next week you're like the debt is enough. Like this, we want. This is one thing about politicians that annoy me. This I respect politicians that are like, even if you are far left, let us know you are far left. I am here to to appeal to my leftist audience. That is who you are. Or you are appealing to people on the right. That is who you are. The ones I don't like are the ones who try to play the middle. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying. You want to appease these people and still you end up annoying both of them. That is all you end up doing. You annoy both of them. And that is what Kamala Harris and her, or Biden and his have succeeded in doing. They've annoyed their own base, and they've annoyed people on the other side. So you're not moving. You're not winning the support of anybody. You are losing it. If you want to be against Israel, be against it. If you want to be for it, be for it. Take a stand, not play in the middle. It's annoying. It annoys everybody.
Yeah.
So that is, and also when it has to do with like let's say African uh, um um American foreign policy as it affects Africa. There was something that JD Vance said about American allies. There's something he said. He said that America, we have to choose, that the country, they have to choose what kind of allies do they want. Do they want strong allies or do they want weak allies? And what he was trying to say in essence is, do we want allies that depend 100% on us or greatly on us, or do we want allies that can for the most part stand on their own, and our relationship with them is like a relationship between equals? That is a strong ally, as opposed to an ally that is your ally because they have no other choice. Which is how you find many African countries being allied with the United States. Is on the basis of we have no other choice, so we have to agree with the United States as much as we can, and that is not a strong ally. In Africa, African countries need to be strong allies. They need to be allies that for the most part you can count on. They are allies that for the most part can stand on their own. But the opposite is the case when you look at the current state of things. And when you hear something like that as an African, you're like, yeah, this is something that I want to see. Hopefully, Trump will. He's not going to perform a miracle and revolutionize the whole American foreign policy. But if this is the mindset with which they will operate, they will do something, or at least start the process, or open the country up to that possibility, and maybe they will exploit moving forward. And that is what I hope to see. You know.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
when it comes to Harris and Biden and Democrats, their foreign policies just follow status quo. So
yeah.
essentially,
Yeah. So you did touch upon the Israel-Palestine war.
Mm.
and you made many. You made a few videos on that as well.
A
So
few? I made a lot.
yeah, a lot. Yeah. So there's going to be unlimited content about Israel-Palestine war, because I just feel like it's a never-ending war. Do you see any potential solution to this?
Immediate solution? No. In fact, I don't even see my content as the type that intends to proffer solution to the problem. I've never in any of my content say, oh, this is what Israel should do, or this is what, because I don't think I have enough information and I have enough expertise to say this is what should be done. All I try to do with my content is to let people know you are as clueless as I am. Stop this. I mean, Israel should not do this. Shut up. You are who? Who are you? Who are you to say they should not do this? You think if you're in their position, you will do it better? Like, keep quiet. You don't have a solution to this problem. You just learned about Israel. You just learned about Palestine 2 days ago, and now you are an expert. Keep quiet. That is the goal of all the videos I made about the issue. Just please stop talking. Like you are not an expert. You don't know anything about wars and how you know the Middle East have always been. You don't even know anything about Islam. You don't even know anything about the motivation behind which these terrorists are acting on. You don't understand anything that is going on, but you have your 2 cents. You're like, this is what should be done. This is how people should. I'm not going to do that. I really don't like. I look at the issue and I'm like, I really don't know how this is going to be solved. I really don't. You know. Also, another thing that I try to do with talking about the Israel-Palestine conflict is to show the hypocrisy of the people who talk about it. It's like you care about people dying, but you don't actually. You just care about the trendy people that are dying. Like, it's the thing about Palestine that is interesting to you is because it's a trend. I don't like people that do things or support things because it's a trend. You know, I mean, if you've cared about genocide, you should have cared about Sudan. Even the UN recognized that it is the most problematic humanitarian crisis, the most tragic humanitarian crisis of the 21st century is what is going on in Sudan. And you've never talked about Sudan. Never. There are areas in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Sudan that I mentioned, in Gambia, in Uganda, where Muslims are attacking communities and slaughtering people every day. Even in Nigeria, I didn't even mention Nigeria, where people are getting slaughtered and killed mercilessly, like is a genocide, because the people who are doing the killing are doing it with the intention of wiping out people of a particular religion. That is genocide. That is their intention. And thus far, they've gotten a lot of, like, the numbers. The numbers are not are higher than whatever it is that is going on in Palestine. Or what are the total casualties since, let's say, the early 2000s in Palestine is nothing compared to what these people have been able to do in all these countries that I mentioned. And you don't talk about it. You don't address those issues. And then few 6 months ago or 8 months ago, I don't know how many months it is now. Kind of like, I think 11 months ago, right? And now you have something to say about people dying. Like, people have always been dying. When did you? I mean, talk about Yemen. Yemen. Let's talk about the place in the Middle East. Talk about Yemen. I mean, where were you when when Saudi Arabia was dropping bombs on Yemen? Funded by the United States, by the way. Where were you when that was going on? I don't think it was funded, but it was okayed by the United States. They were solidly behind Saudi Arabia when they were bombing the Houthis back to the 7th century. Where were you when that was going on? Where were you when Yazidi girls were being raped by ISIS? You didn't care about Middle Eastern conflict in those instances. But now, because this is trendy, thanks to Muslims who have made this, because they're the ones who made this trendy. They're like 1.9 billion, and many of them are on social media now. So every day you see somebody wearing a hijab crying about children that are being blown up. I'm like, see, as much as I empathize, there are people who always say this thing whenever they talk about the deaths in Palestine, and they're like, every death is tragic. I'm like, I don't feel that way. Let me be honest with you. Some deaths, I'm like, you brought it upon yourself. I don't know how to feel sorry for you. Why I am talking like that is because I come from a country where people die often, okay? And they did nothing. They did not contribute in any way to that. You get what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah.
did not, it was not their fault. They did nothing. Why you live in a country, you promote terrorists, they did something and now people are dying. I'm like, well, I mean, my sympathy for you is really thin. I really don't have my big my heart is really not that big to be empathetic towards you because I'm like, it's your fault. If you did not do this, you will not be facing this. You know. So that is how I feel towards like the whole conflict, and I hope people will just even there was a period during the whole like beginning of Kamala Harris's campaign where you had like this rift between the black community and the pro-Palestine community, where they were like, you guys are being racist, and this one's like, you guys are, white supremacy on the left, racism on the other side. You are funding a genocide. Kamala Harris is going to fund a genocide. She should not be a better candidate. And then the other side is like, no, she's a black woman. She should be it's both parts, both sides. I've never seen a conflict where two people in the conflict are wrong. They just both of them are wrong. But when that was going on, some black people like who were supporters of Kamala Harris were like, instead of focusing on the war in Palestine, they're now going to focus on the war in Congo, or they're now going to like talk about it, not like focus on it, but talk about it. That's what is going to be on their timeline. Even with then, I was like, as much as it is nice that now you are thinking of Congo, I would rather that you take your time and learn about the conflict in Congo before you give us another 2 cents. Before you give us another analysis that is just going to be like, what is this person talking about? Let your analysis of the conflict in Congo not be similar to your analysis of the conflict in Palestine, because both of them will not be productive. It will be better that you educate yourself, really learn about the history of whatever conflict you want to focus on now, than to just hop on it and just, make it a trend and nobody really understands exactly what is going. It will not help even the Congolese themselves. It will not help them that you are ignorant, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So as you mentioned, in the West we see all these hijabi influencers or people like the Tate brothers or Sneeko taking the side of Palestine. Now, I don't have a strong opinion on Israel-Palestine because I'm not an expert on that either.
Mm,
But we see that when the perpetrators of violence are Muslims and Islamists in many
mm,
African countries, like you mentioned, or here in
mm,
India or Pakistan or Bangladesh,
mm,
people in the West, the very same influencers who feel sorry for Palestinians are
mm.
very silent. And even white liberals are scared to question deaths caused by Islamists because they are scared that they'll be accused of Islamophobia. Why do you think we've ended up here?
For the white liberals, they did it to themselves. They are they made they did they the problem I have with people who want to be tolerant is that when you glorify tolerance, like you make tolerance into a religion essentially, where it is the highest good you can ever be is to be tolerant, and there is no reason whatsoever to not be tolerant. First of all, the white liberals themselves are intolerant. Very, very intolerant set of people.
I
They don't
agree.
tolerate people with a different ideology. They don't. They don't tolerate me. They have tried many times to flag my channel. So I know they don't tolerate me. Okay? They don't tolerate me. Despite the fact that I'm Nigerian, I'm black, and everything, they don't tolerate me. So they're intolerant themselves. You know, they have a particular group that deserve tolerance, right. One is, you have to for you to be tolerated, you have to agree with them for the most part. Also, you have to be a minority. So first, you have to be black or you have to be non-white. What they describe as a minority, Western minority, not global minority. This is the funny thing: a Western minority may not be a global minority, right? In the West, Arabs are a minority or Muslims are a minority. In the world as a whole, they are not. They are a strong majority. You know,
So true.
1.9 billion people. That's not a small number. We have more Muslims than we have Jews. You know, so that is one of the things you have to be. You have to be a Western minority, and also you have to be a Western minority who agrees with them for the most part. Then they can tolerate you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that is when you come up with such kind of like way of thinking or way of behaving, you essentially find yourself in a place where you see something that is wrong, that a minority is pushing, and because over time you have created a society where criticizing them makes you intolerant, you can no longer criticize them. You know, for example, that there is something wrong with people wearing the hijab. Let's just even the mildest form of hijab wearing, as long as it is done compulsorily, you feel or you just feel something is not right with this. Like it doesn't sit well with you. But you have to tell yourself as a liberal white person that oh, it's their culture, it's their religion. There's nothing wrong with it. You have to convince yourself. You don't believe it, but you have to try as much as possible to convince yourself that there's nothing problematic about this. You have to when you see violent attacks that are being conducted by Muslims, you have to convince yourself that this is not really Islamic, that Islam is peace. You know, there's no compulsion in religion. You have to convince yourself of those things, even when you see over and overwhelming evidence that this may not be the case. So when they do that to themselves, now I wonder how they are going to do moving forward, or how they are going to reconcile the truth with their ideology. That is the problem for liberals, reconciling the truth with ideology. You know,
Yeah, and ironically, white liberals support two contradicting falsehoods. On one side, they try to pretend that Islam is peaceful and we are not going to criticize Islam. On the other side, they support all this woke LGBTQ thing that men can be women. And both sides sh- are
they
contradictory because
contradict it.
Muslims hate
Okay.
LGBTQ more than anyone else.
Mm. I think what they I remember one time there's this is a TikTok video. I didn't end up reacting to it because I thought it was so funny when I thought about it so much. I was laughing at it that I didn't have enough. I think I forgot to just, but I know I didn't talk about it I didn't talk about it on my channel. It was a video that I saw. Somebody was giving a historical account of how things were in ancient Rome. I think was it ancient Rome or ancient Greece, and then he was talking about how one army fought another army, and both armies had a lot of gay people in them. And she was like, "Why are the gays fighting? We are on the same team." I was like, "Yeah, that's not how people in the world think. You know that that this person is gay and this person is gay does not mean we are all now friends. Let's hold hands together. We are happy people." No, that's not how the world works. You're not united by your sexual orientation. That's not you really a uniting factor for people. That is all this false community and false identity that you guys have come up with. It's not a uniting factor. Gay people have always existed in society and fought amongst each other. You know, there's one gay army versus another gay army. You know, so the problem with people in the West is that they feel once you are a minority, you should be united because you are what is the word that they used to describe it? Uh, uh,
Is it
I forgot.
inter
There's a word they used to describe it where they call about it's okay, yeah, intersectionalism. Like
intersection? Yeah.
there's this intersection. You are all kind of glued together by your equal oppression and marginalization. So, by virtue of the fact that you are oppressed and marginalized, you somehow must be united, or it is implied that you are united together because you are facing the same problem of white supremacy, of capitalism, of sexism, and whatever. It just affects all of us the same. But the truth is not it's not true. You know, it's not true. Somebody might be gay and be a ruthless capitalist. I'm telling you. You know, somebody might be a lesbian and you know might be a lesbian and not really, and somebody might be gay and really not have respect for lesbians. You know, somebody can be gay and really have no respect for people who are transgender. You know, somebody can be black and hate gay people. Like one of the groups in America that are homophobic are black people. People
Yeah,
don't talk about it. They make it look like blacks are just all going. No, no, no. One of the most homophobic groups in the West are blacks.
yeah,
But of course, talking about that or highlighting that or mentioning that is you being racist. So we have to pretend like that does not exist. We are all united in suffering. And then when you talk about the most homophobic of them all are the Muslims. But all of a sudden Arabs are marginalized, Arabs are oppressed. Despite the fact that you have rich Arab countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, despite you have Arabs who are inflicting serious harm and violence, like what you find in Sudan, where the Arab population are killing the African population en masse, like serious genocide, and where Arab groups are funding terrorism in Mali and in the Sahel region. These are instances where the Arabs are the provocators, where they are the instigators, where they are the oppressors. But you have to see everything from that Western landscape of oppressor versus the oppressed. And by Western definition, Arabs are oppressed because there are only four of them in your village or four of them in your community. Therefore, they are oppressed. Despite the fact that there are millions of them outside your community, it doesn't matter. So once you already have that framework, you already find yourself in that situation, and it's where you can no longer criticize people. And I wonder how they will get out of it. I wonder, the solution is to accept the truth. The truth should trump ideology. The truth should, in fact, your ideology should try to align with the truth, not your ideology constantly ignoring the truth. Is it true that there is something called Arab supremacy? Yes. People don't know this, but there is something called Arab supremacy. Okay? White supremacy is not, there's even black supremacy. People act like black supremacy is not the thing, but there is black supremacy as well. There are groups and there are people who believe that blacks are superior to every other race. There are people who believe that Arabs are superior. In fact, they have an entire religion around it, that the Arabs are superior to every other race, or the Muslims. There are people who believe also that whites are the superior race. All forms of supremacy are evil. If liberals are against supremacy, ethnic supremacy, I will be like fine. But they are not against ethnic supremacy. They are against white supremacy. And that is the problem. When all that you find as a problem is white supremacy, you ignore every other form of supremacy. There are even people in the people who claim they are trying to destroy heteronormativity, right? They want to destroy this system that is built on heteronormativity. Straight people are the problem, right? They themselves are queer supremacists. Because you've elevated queerness and make it look like it is the end all be all, is the alpha and the omega. You are also a supremacist. you know and another thing about the left is that they are not aware of their excesses. That is the problem with, like, people on the right, to a great extent, understand that there are excesses to being right wing. That's why the media is always talking about the far right, even though some of the things they consider far right are just
normal.
even centrist positions, but now they are far right positions, right? But nobody talks about the far left because people on the left are not aware that they can be extreme.
Yeah, they
So.
yeah, they look at everything from the Western lens. They cannot imagine that two groups of minorities can hate each other, which is why they come up with delusional things like queers for Palestine, when in reality, if a queer person goes anywhere in the Middle East, he's going to most likely be shot dead. So it's
Mhm.
very hilarious. So I wanted to move on and talk a little bit about Andrew Tate. Uh,
Mm.
when it comes to Andrew Tate, there are some people who worship him, who are his fanboys, and then there are some people who say that Andrew Tate must be hated. He's the worst. Whereas for me, when I watch Andrew Tate
Mm.
videos, I think, you know what? I like some of the things that he says, but not everything. I don't worship this guy.
Mhm.
He's got a few good points. That's how I look at him.
Yeah, yeah. This is the thing about people like Andrew Tate, or people who are grifters and scam. Let me not use the word grifters. I think that is one word that can apply to anybody. I've been called a grifter countless times, so let me not. I've been accused of it, so let me not use it too much. But this is the thing about people who are trying to spread dangerous ideas, because I believe Andrew Tate does spread dangerous ideas. They are not going to. It's not like everything they say you are going to disagree with them, right? Like let's use the left for example. These are people that we recognize have big problems. It's not everything that people on the left talk about that they are wrong about. For example, there's so many people on the right who will not even recognize that there is a problem with climate change. For example, they try to push the issue under the rug, ignore it. They have some of their criticism of it is just like very dumb, right? There are people like that on the right, right? And then there are people on the left who, at least their analysis for the most part of what climate change is about is sound. It's not really like ridiculous. You understand? Of course, we will have places we disagree. You're not going to agree with every person 100%. But the reason why we oppose like the climate change activists and the climate is for a particular reason. It's not because everything they say is wrong. When you oppose somebody, there is something in particular you are opposing. Right? That's the point I'm trying to make. When you oppose people, it's not everything they say that you are opposing. It's a particular thing that they said or they are known for, or that is like that distinguish them from every other group of people. Right? There's something distinguishing about them. When it comes to Andrew Tate, what distinguish him from every other person is the other things he promotes or he has been known for promoting. This is somebody who ran a webcam business, and the webcam business was essentially him pimping women and trafficking women. Okay, and then he started a course, an online course, where he was teaching people how to do the exact thing that he was doing. That was his entire MO for a very long time. Then when he allegations came, he tried to launder his reputation and is now like, no, actually why they're against me is because I was trying to tell young men to stand up and to exercise and to do. I'm like, no, that's not, no, 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 no. That's not what you did. That is not what you did. What you did, in fact, there were some things that he said that we are downright misogynistic. That we are downright misogynistic. He said women are stupid. Not once, not twice. He said that women cannot manage their affairs. They need a man to manage their affairs. That yeah, we can have the debate of female temperament and tendencies and how it relates to operating in leadership positions. We can have that conversation, but that is different from saying that a woman is incapable of being a leader. That she's just incapable of it. Okay, there are women who learn and who over time master and are good administrators. It's not unknown. It's not uncommon. It's not an impossible. It's not like they are handicapped in that aspect. To see them as such is to be misogynistic and also just be wrong, plain, just flat out wrong. You know. He also believed that that there's this, will I call it masculine supreme, like, yes, we already had the gender wars that was already going on in the West, where it looks like men and women were being put against each other. Andrew Tate was not the solution to that. He was like a contribution to that. Essentially what he was trying, his message was like, don't care about this 304s. Don't value these women. Have multiple sex partners. Do this, do that. You are a real man. As a real man, you should not settle for one. You should have many, and you should have to control them, and they should have to submit to you. He promoted a kind of dynamic between men and women that was unhealthy, problematic for even the men that he claimed to be saving. What his remedy, his solution was worse than the problem. It's like, you need to return to the days when women were under your foot. That is why he saw Islam as something that appealed to him, because the way Islam describes the relationship between men and women is something that is close to how Andrew Tate has always seen men and women. So yes, he was able to identify the problem that, feminism has gone too far. We all agree with that. You know, there was this form of female, like we were talking about supremacy earlier. There was this form of female supremacy that was already in the air, where women are like superior and women are the end all be or what a man can do, a woman can do. Equal men and women are equal in every sense of the word. That is problematic. The solution that Andrew Tate is preferring is like, yeah, men be strong, men, take charge, and also deal with these B words. It's like, yeah, men should take charge, men should be leaders, but they should also respect women, they should also honor women, they should also be kind, they should also be good, they should not seek to exploit women. Everything between every relationship between a man and a woman is not a transaction. There is something like true love, you know. But that was not his solution. His solution is just for toxic masculinity as the solution to toxic femininity. So
Yeah. If I look at feminists and if we call feminists as fatherless behavior, then I would say that Andrew Tate is sort of motherless behavior, the exact opposite of toxic feminism.
here's the
And
funny thing: his behavior is also fatherless behavior.
yes,
That is why we say Andrew Tate and the feminists are two sides of the same coin.
yeah,
It's still fatherless behavior that will make a man think that what masculinity is whatever Andrew Tate is. When you have a good father, when you have a real, like, functional father in your life who portray to you what real masculinity is, you will not look to the Andrew Tates of the world. You will not look to them. You won't need them. Because when you look at them, you'll be like, my dad is a good man. He was a great man, had a wonderful relationship, and he was never like you. Everything you are recommending is contrary to how my parents behave and interacted with each other. This is bad. So, I mean, talk about people don't understand. I think Westerners don't understand toxic masculinity. You need to come to Africa to see real, undiluted toxic masculinity where men are dealing with women. The Andrew Tate style. Not that thing Andrew Tate is saying. You need to see where African men are doing it to women. It's bad.
oh
It's,
god,
it's really horrible. You will feel
okay,
for these women. So
yeah,
that is why I'm like, nah, this person, what his message is wrong. It's bad. It's not true. People should not society should not organize like this. I mean, one of the things that Andrew Tate is like a promoter of. He still is, even now that he has tried to launder his reputation. He has not laundered this part. He's a firm proponent of polygamy. He thinks polygamy is a good thing, but he doesn't know that there are so many things that come with polygamy. So many things. One is the reason why you have societies where there is so much emphasis placed on virginity. So much emphasis. Like a woman being a virgin is like the definition of her womanhood. What makes her precious and valuable. It is because of polygamy, and polygamy treats women like commodity. In a polygamous society, it is not uncommon to find women being treated as commodity because they are commodity. A man gets to purchase as many as possible. When a man can have more women, but a woman cannot have more men, there is something about the intrinsic worth and value of those people that is no longer the same. Like basic, fundamentally speaking, there is the problem. The question then becomes: to what extent is that society going to play this out? Like this difference in what? Like in essential what of both persons. To what extent is the society going to play it out? Now, some societies are play it out to the farthest extent, where you have FGM, female genital mutilation, where because they want to preserve the virginity of the women, they have to go into extreme practices. You have societies where even the men themselves do not get to have access to as much women because people at the top are getting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 wives, and the men at the bottom are getting no wives, so they get to sleep with animals. And you see it in the Muslim world. You get where, because of how society gets to organize itself, because they are polygamous, and how much emphasis is placed on the commodification of a woman. Women are not allowed to be seen, women are not allowed to speak, and then the only close relationship a man will have with a woman is with his siblings or relatives or cousins. And that has led to cousin marriage in places like Pakistan. All of these are the effects of polygamy because you've created that unequal, that or unfair balance between men and women. And the question then becomes, to what extent is the society going to play this out? So
Yeah, those are all some valid points, and it's where Andrew Tate is a man full of contradictions. He started his career doing the most haram thing, which is a webcam business, and then he converts to Islam and is going around lecturing people what is haram and what is halal. He's obviously a hypocrite, and it's so visible. I want to, yeah, I want to, kind of conclude this podcast by asking you,
mhm.
what are your future plans? You've been making so many wonderful videos, well edited videos. So, what are your future plans?
Yeah, my future plan, which was something that I planned to do early this year, but the Israel-Palestine conflict kind of made me forget about it because I became so invested in geopolitics that I forgot. Oh, actually, this year I had a different plan, So I'm returning to my original plan for the year, which is to make more content, um, focusing on Islam, the religion of peace, and to just show why I think the religion itself is problematic at best, false at worst. So if you will not agree that the religion is false, at least agree with me that it is problematic. Either way, that is, if we don't reach for the sun of you seeing that the religion is false, maybe we'll land on the moon of you seeing that the religion is problematic. So that is kind of what the content that I'm doing moving forward is going to get towards, just to
Okay.
point out some of the problem with the religion.
Since you live in Nigeria, where almost I think half the population is Muslims, do you think your life could be under threat because you're so critical of Islam?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. It has always been. Yeah, here's the problem about when people ask me, do you think your life is in danger because of the criticism? I think my life is in danger just merely living in this country.
Oh God. Yeah.
Just barely living in the country, my life is already at risk. I'm like, well, let's just add one more risk to it. What's there? The more the
Yeah.
merrier. You know. But the point I'm trying to make is that yeah, there's always that risk. There's always that risk. But uh is any person will be naive to think that you're going to be somebody who is going to be an advocate for the truth and you will not stand, you will not be risking your life by doing so. You know, essentially, there was something that happened last year, late last year, early this year. There were people who were attacked in Jos, Nigeria. That's a city in Nigeria. Over close to 1,500 were killed, and many more were displaced. These were jihadis who attacked their community, burned down churches and stuff in Nigeria. And so when that happened, a friend of mine was telling me, Frank, you need to stop talking or reduce the way you talk about Islam and stuff. You need to be careful. You see what these people are doing. And I'm like, the people that were attacked in Jos did not say anything. They did not release any video. They did not. I am not sure any of them said anything that would be considered blasphemy or that would be considered offensive towards Islam. But yet they were attacked. You know, so
Yeah.
it's
Might as
going to
well.
happen anyway. You might as well just you say nothing, you die. You
Yeah.
say something, you die. Why don't you just say something? The same end is going to come to us all. People, we are all going to die. So,
Right. So,
so why don't you just die at least? Let your death be for something, and it's for it to be for nothing.
yeah, absolutely. So you're someone who values truth a lot. So I
Yeah,
want
yeah, I think
to,
it's important.
yeah. So I want to end this podcast by asking, what is your purpose in life?
My purpose in life is to live a life that is pleasing to God, pleading to the Father to. I think that is like the 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 summary of my purpose. It's like how the scriptures, if I can quote the Bible a little, how the Bible said in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 11, it said, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of man. I think that's like the summary of what I believe I've been put on this earth to do, is to fear God and to do what he wants me to do, because that's my entire duty. And I think one of that is to, for now, right? As you progress, the older you get or the more you live, the more things you find to do, you know. For now, I think part of that is to expose the religion of peace, and yeah, and also expose problematic ideologies, because it's not just the religion of peace, also wokeism and leftism and just extremism in general, and lies. You know, I believe that is one of the things that I have been called to do. Also, to love people around me, to be a good brother, a good neighbor, a good friend. You know, even a good enemy sometimes. You know, you know, just to love people and be kind and be generous, essentially. So yeah, that is.
Well, you've been a good guest on this podcast, and I've learned a lot through this conversation. Thank you so much, Frank, for coming on the
Yeah,
Labyrinth.
yeah. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.